what is the difference between value and consideration when we are looking at the title?
Okay, so this is the title. Okay, so on the title, certificate of title, so before you list somebody's property or when you're writing an offer for a buyer, you would pull the title of the property. So the title of the property will give you details about the property. So for example, it will give you the link number, legal description, or title number. And this is the same thing as here, or this one here is the same as this, it's just in a shortened form here. And then it will tell you what type of state it is, what city the property is in. So this is the last time the property was sold or the title was transferred. So this is the last time the property exchanged hands, right? So it said transfer of land from the seller to the buyer or from one party to the other. Okay. So sometimes you will see, generally 90% of the time, it would be same. This is the value of the property at the time of the sale, and this is how much they paid for it. So consideration is how much they paid for it. Value of the property is what is the value, actual market value of the property at the time. Now, this is not like 100% true, but it'll be close enough, right? So this is the value of the property. This is how much they paid for it. So generally, it will be the same. But there can be circumstances where it will not be the same. So the reason for that is because when the lawyers register the property with the land titles office, you have to pay fees based on the consideration. Okay, so if let's say, so we do this sometimes, and I'll give you other examples when this may work. So basically, what we'll do is some properties under my husband's name, other properties under my name, and sometimes we may need to transfer the property from one person's name to another because of maybe mortgage or other things like that. So in that case, let's say we paid this amount. Let's say the property's under my husband's name. This is how much we purchased it for. But for mortgage purposes, I wanted to put the property under my name. So if the property is under my name, I can get a mortgage on it. If the property is under my husband's name, then he can get the mortgage on it. I cannot. So let's say for our mortgage purposes, it should be under my name. So then what we will do is we will do a transfer of land at the land titles office. But instead of paying 200 and like this 323,500, I don't need to pay him that and incur extra costs because we already paid it once, right? So we're not actually selling the property. We are just transferring it to somebody else's name or my name in this case. So this is where the consideration, it cannot be zero, right? So remember we said one of the things was the 6 essential elements of a contract. One was consideration. You cannot sell the property for zero consideration. It has to be at least $1, right? So back in during COVID, when first COVID started, there was this whole like all kinds of concerns around how the property values will drop and nobody would want to buy houses and so forth. So there was a big news article in Edmonton, one of the Edmonton newspapers, where a downtown tower was selling for $1. They said that's what they paid for it. So that means the consideration on the title said $1. So that means the seller gave it to the buyer for $1. Okay, so this is the value of the property, but here they only paid $1. But the thing there was they paid $1 plus debt, $60 million in debt. So technically they bought it for 60 million plus $1. Okay, but sometimes it's structured differently so that it doesn't show up here. So $60 million of debt won't show up there, but that's how much really they took on the debt. So that means they're acquiring the mortgage. So that's why it's not showing up. So they're saying, no, we are buying it for $1, but we are going to take over your loans. And that's a different process in the back end. That's why it doesn't show up. But the same thing applies when my husband pays this much and then I take over for $1 or $10. That's because I don't want to pay this and incur all the costs associated with that. Okay, so that's the difference. So generally 90% of the times it will be the same. Or another thing is when an executor gets on the title. So for example, somebody has passed away, now their house has to be sold. So executor's name will get added to the title. So instead of the name of the owner here, executor's name will be there, right? So in this case, the value will be this, but they will pay a lot, like there will be nothing, like $1 or whatever, right? So this is where that's another circumstance where the transfer of the land happens or property happens, but there is no consideration or very little consideration. It's just nominal, just because it cannot be zero. So it has to be some number. So you can do $1 or $10 or something. But for most cases, when you're involved in a sale of a property, the value consideration will be the same as the value of the property.